This is episode number 669 of the Cliff Ravenscraft Show.
Entertaining, educational, and encouraging content that makes a difference.
This is GSPN.TV.
Join the community.
Are you ready to take your message, your business, and your life to the next level?
Want to learn from someone with more than a decade of experience, training tens of thousands of people from all around the world?
Hi, Cliff. This is Pauline from Auckland, New Zealand.
John from Calgary, Alberta.
Amy Porterfield.
Michael Hyatt.
Dan here from Dunedin, New Zealand.
Ray Edwards. Mark Mason. Mike Stelzner.
Pat from Smart Passive Income.
It's Darren from Melbourne, Australia.
Now is the time to live the life of your dreams and do the work you feel most called to do in the world.
Welcome to the Cliff Ravenscraft Show.
Here's your host, Cliff Ravenscraft.
Welcome, my friend, and I am so delighted that you're here for another episode of the Cliff Ravenscraft Show. Today I'm going to share with you probably the shortest episode of this podcast in existence. There may have been one shorter, I don't know. But anyway, today I'm going to be sharing with you a brief conversation I had on Clubhouse with my dear friend, Jared Elrod, who obviously has a day job and has a passion that he desperately wants to jump into. Just like I'd love to just dive in head first, but it's just not yet mature enough financially for me to make that leap. And his question to me in an Ask Me Anything session that I did on Clubhouse was, how do I avoid frustration with my day job, seeing the day job as a burden and a distraction, while my side business that I'd want to jump into isn't yet mature enough financially for me to make the leap? Now, if you are currently building a side business and that question resonates with you, I certainly encourage you to stick around and have a listen to this. However, if you already have your own business, have you ever had situations where you are frustrated with anything in your business? Hey, I have a new idea. How do I avoid feeling frustrated with whatever it is in life? Really, this is a question about how to avoid frustration. And I'm going to share with you this brief conversation with Jared, and then I'm going to come and add a few extra points at the end. But here's the conversation in full that I had with Jared.
I guess my biggest question, and I'm sure others may be going through the same thing or will when they start the journey, is how do you deal with kind of that, I'll use the word frustration, maybe it's not the best word, but when you're doing it for free, you're loving it, you totally believe that, okay, I see this is going towards success, maybe you're even making some money, and while you were still, like you were talking about working for your parents, how do you deal with that? Like, okay, now I feel like I've got, my heart is over here with what I want to do, but I'm not ready to make that full jump yet. How do you deal with that, keeping, it from getting frustrating, or keep it from the job becoming, a burden, or making that jump too soon because you couldn't wait until it was the right time and it was mature enough to make that jump?
I love that question. And you asked a bunch of different questions there in that question, Jared. So how do you keep it from being frustrating, meaning the pursuit of the passion on the side? How do you keep your work from feeling like a distraction or a burden and all of that other stuff? And there's so many different directions we could go down. Which of those two questions, or is there a third question that you asked inside of there, which you would like me to focus on first? Because there were multiple questions there, and I want to focus on whichever one would add the most value to you to start off with.
Okay, let's go with the how to keep there from being frustration with your current job. If you know that you still have a little bit of a runway, a year, 2 years, whatever it is, how do you keep still being happy and positive at your current job and not kind of resenting it because you just want to move on to your next thing?
The answer to that question is learning first and foremost that the peace, love, and joy is not something that is going to come from any external circumstances. So your frustration is not actually coming from the day job. Your frustration and stress is not from the fact that you're not able to yet reach the end of the runway and take flight with the side passion. To answer that question specifically is to understand that your emotional state is within your control, regardless of any external force in your life. And so it may seem that the question, how do I keep the day job from being a frustrating experience while I'm doing XYZ? It may sound like that question is related to this topic, but by the way, I love this question. I'm glad you asked it. But the question is, how do I go through life without experiencing frustration in spite of what's happening in my life? So once you discover that, then you could realize it's like, listen, if it genuinely will take me 18 months before I'm able to leave this day job, how do I manage my emotional state in such a way that I choose not to be frustrated by it, that I choose to see this ongoing, steady stream of income as the gift that it is, as a part of the investment necessary to build into taking flight with my desired outcome. Now, Jared, I could go into more detail about how to manage the emotional state, but as I actually tell you that the idea is for you to understand that it's within your control, what goes through your mind as you hear those things?
Yeah, I think that your question there is the answer. So you basically answered it because it like you said, that's not actually the question. The question is the whole. So now that's a different journey. It's like, okay, so clearly this is just the thing I'm rubbing up on to show that there's still some internal work to be done. It has nothing to do with the external. This just happens to be what I've bumped into, but it's completely unrelated. So that question basically kind of points me in the right direction and answers my actual question. So I do appreciate that.
I love that, Jared. And I'm glad I checked in with you. So one of the things I want to tell you is some of my favorite coaching clients that I've worked with, there are a handful of people that have hired me and said, Cliff, I want to hire you because I believe with you as my coach, I will be able to reach the end of the runway and not crash. I will have taken flight. And for them, reaching the end of the runway of that 18 months or that however long that period of time is that's in their mind, their idea is that, man, with working with you, Cliff, I have no doubt I'll be able to finally leave this absolutely soul-destroying day job, and I'll finally be able to fly into the freedom of self-employment. Dude, where do I sign up? Take my money, Cliff. And Jared, I'm happy to work with those folks. And in many cases, that's exactly what I helped them to do. Only the reality is we didn't need an 18-month runway. We probably only needed a 90-day or a 6-month runway. And they're taking flight. They had way more runway paved than was necessary. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. But some of my favorite clients that I've worked with, Jared, are the people who hired me for that purpose. And within a relatively short period of time, they realized that what they truly wanted was more financial security in their life. They wanted a little bit more variety in their life. They wanted to sense a little bit deeper level of significance that the work that they're doing in this world matters. They wanted a little bit more connection and love. They wanted something that would stretch them to cause them to grow a little bit more, and they wanted to have a deeper impact and influence in the world around them, meaning they wanted a little bit greater contribution to the lives of others. And they believed that their day job was this soul-crushing experience that they had to break free from because the day job was keeping them from experiencing all of those things. Some of my favorite experiences in coaching people have been where at the end of our coaching time, they never took flight. But don't get me wrong, they didn't reach the end of the runway and crash into the gate or the fence or off the cliff into the water that surrounds the airport. No, we got to taxiing, and as they stood in line, right as it came time for them to take flight, they realized, wait a second, I'm on the wrong plane to the wrong destination. This isn't the flight for me. I could have everything I want. I've already invested the last 20 years of my life here. I could have everything I want here. I don't have to take this flight to a different location. And so we pull off the runway, taxi back to the terminal, and they say, Cliff, thank you so much. And then I just wait for the next person to come on board. So Jared, I'm not suggesting that you don't need to leave your day job or that you shouldn't leave your day job or any of those things. But man, there's so much to understand about the fact that oftentimes what we think we're going to get when we take flight, when we actually realize our dream, there are so many times that we realize a dream, we accomplish a goal, and we get really excited for a period of time. Sometimes that is a couple of hours. Occasionally it lasts for a couple of days or weeks. Rarely does it ever last for more than a couple of months. And certainly if it lasts for a couple of years, it's fine. But eventually something new comes along that says, wow, I thought this was going to be the lasting peace and the lasting fulfillment and the lasting joy. And it's been nice, but I still feel this lack of peace. I still feel this lack of security. I still feel this lack of significance. And so you know what they do? They head back to the airport. They're ready to jump on another plane to another destination, to another outcome, to another goal, to another thing, until they realize that their emotional state and the seeking of significance and all of those things, those can all be found within themselves instead of the external. The external things will give you some of those feelings for a period of time, but not lasting. And so, Jared, thank you so much for the question. Well, there you go. That was my conversation with Jared. I hope that you already pulled out an insight. And there are really two main insights when it comes to how to avoid frustration. The first insight is that you must understand that your emotional state is within your control regardless of any external force in your life. It is not your relationship and what your spouse said that's frustrating you. It is not the fact that you have a day job that you feel I can't leave. It's not a frustration with the fact that my business, I've been doing it for X number of months and I'm still not able to leave the day job. That's not the source of your frustration. The source of your frustration, quite frankly, is your perception. Now, that'll get into insight number 2, but insight number 1 is learning how to control your emotional state. This episode was not about how to control your emotional state. This episode is all about how do I avoid being frustrated? And insight number 1 is go and learn how to control your emotional state. If you ever need any assistance with that, you could use a coach such as myself. I help a lot of people get control over their emotional states so that they can actually work towards whatever they want to create in this world, not out of, man, I really believe that if I had this, my life, I would have more of what I want in life. Instead, coming to the place where, oh my gosh, I have everything I could ever desire in life, all right here, right now. I can feel any way I want. And now that I actually feel that way, I can actually create anything I desire. I can take flight with my business in the next 90 days, 6 months, 18 months, whatever you decide. But you would do that not in the seeking of getting something that you feel that you lack, but out of an abundance of everything that you have within you. And the pursuit of those things, all of a sudden, it's a place that you're coming from. It's not a place that you're going to. You're creating these things to be more in alignment with your purpose in this world, with what you feel called to do, with what makes you come alive. When you do those things, learn that it's within your power how to shift frustration to appreciation. And that leads into insight number 2 on how to keep any circumstance from being a frustrating circumstance. And it's this thing called reframing. Reframe your perspective of the day job in this circumstance, to see it as the gift that it is. It's a guaranteed source of steady income while I'm building the momentum necessary down the runway. The day job is the fuel that allows my jet engines to propel me further down this runway so that ultimately I can glide on the airstream. Imagine every hour spent at that day job as an investment. You could work on reframing this to see the gift that day job has to offer. What an incredible opportunity for me to bone up on additional skills that are necessary, that I can learn new knowledge and strategies and planning, that I am not in a position where all of a sudden I have to do things out of desperation to make money with my business because I didn't leap too soon. Reframing. I hope that this very brief episode of the Cliff Ravenscraft Show has been valuable to you. I host a lot of conversations on Clubhouse, and if you want to learn a little bit more about that, head over to mindsetanswerman.com/clubhouse. There's a way for you to get notified via the Telegram app, and all of the details about that are over there again at mindsetanswerman.com/clubhouse. And of course, if you would like to have a private one-on-one coaching experience with me, you could always head over to my Work With Me page at cliffravenscraft.com or mindsetanswerman.com. Either one will work. Just fill out that one-on-one coaching application and let's just see where it leads. Before I end this episode, since it is so brief, I'd love to share with you an audio testimonial that my dear friend Ray Edwards sent me a couple of years ago. After one of our conversations, he was in his office and just turned on a random camera that he had in the office there and recorded this.
Cliff Ravenscraft, as a coach, is unique among all coaches I've ever experienced. He's the only one who takes the time to really get to understand what your challenges are and why you haven't gotten where you want to be by now, what stands in your way, and how to get through that or around it or to dismantle the barriers. The most amazing thing about working with Cliff is his compassion and his absolute dedication to doing the most he can to help you, no matter what your goal or challenge or task might be. Here's the thing I like best about working with Cliff is it's not as if he has the magic and you have to have Cliff to make things happen, but the magic that he does have is helping you access the resourcefulness you have inside yourself already. Cliff likes to say that you don't need his coaching, he just helps you become more of who you really are, and I found that to be the absolute truth. Now, he does bring to the table a set of tools that has helped me overcome some of the challenges and erase some of the bad behavior patterns of the past where I've never been able to do it before. With Cliff's coaching, I've been able to not only overcome the bad habits of the past, but to completely eradicate them, to change the habits into good habits, the habits that serve me, the habits that get me to do the things I want to do. And results, I've seen an increase in income. I've seen 16 pounds of weight loss since working with Cliff, and I've experienced more rest and restfulness in my business. I'm no longer achieving to be happy, but I'm happily achieving. I credit my ability to access those resources within myself and make those things happen to Cliff, who helped unlock those doors for me. So I would encourage anybody who needs to make progress where you've never made progress before, or maybe overcome challenges you've tried repeatedly to overcome but you can't seem to get past them. Work with Cliff. Get one of his coaching experiences and see for yourself that I'm telling you the truth. Cliff can help you make things happen you've never been able to make happen before in a way that you'll enjoy and in a way that will install these new behaviors and habits for life. Cliff Ravenscraft. Highest recommendation. Work with him if you get the chance. You won't be sorry.
Mindset Answer Man.